14 years ago, Oda foreshadowed this reveal on a cover story, and the way the Giants were hyping up Scaber Gaban,
the head of the table, the tribal chief, in God mode himself.
and Twitter is flaming him in comparisons to Roger and Rayleigh.
Boom, 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 boom! Hit the rolling store with the rollie on. Jackal fully on.
But let me just be honest with you guys. I knew it was a wrap when Luffy brought up Sanji parallels. I already knew the Zoro fans would start the agenda, but this is the great thing about being a Luffy fan like myself, who appreciates both his wings. I can look at Scaber Gaban with no bias, and I love his look, his personality, gives me Master Roshi vibes. So when he shows his power, it's gonna be cool. The same thing happened to Queen and Wano, who had a sick personality but got roasted for the goofiness. It happened with Bon Clay, who fans ended up liking more than Mr. One. So depending on what Scaber Gaban pulls off, it's gonna reflect on Sanji's future, and I believe Sanji might reach Yonko level because of the Scaber Gaban hype, but minimum Admiral level by end of story for sure. So let's do a deep dive on chapter 1139 in the GOAT Mountain Eater Scaber Gaban. So Scaber Gaban shows a secret hideout behind the throne. It's a treasure room. He shows them where the key to Loki's cuffs are, and it's a huge key. It makes sense. Loki's a huge giant, and says not even the thieves that stole the treasure wanted to take this key. Even bad guys don't want Loki free, and it's pretty interesting because we also see the Giants hyping up as well, stating that Scaber Gaban was a legend that stood shoulder to shoulder with Goldie, Roger, and Silver's Rayleigh, the left hand of the Pirate King, Scaber Gaban. And he says to Luffy, get past me if you want the key. And there's two things I want to unpack with this. The first of all, this is one of the few times where Oda actually highlights a left hand. We usually see it done with Sanji most of the cases, but this is the first time he does it with someone that's not Sanji, and it's the Pirate King crew. So what I'm realizing is when it comes to the Pirate King crew, the left hand matters the most when it comes to any other crew. Because yes, the second commander and third commander of the Yonko crews are talked about, but the Pirate crew with Scaber Gaban and Sanji are the greatest left hands I've seen in the series, if I'm being completely honest. Now, I also want to say this. Scaber Gaban saying, get past me if you want the key. This changes everything because you have to think about it like this. Depending how Scaber Gaban does in this fight, it's going to do a lot for power scaling because we know Luffy got trained by Silver's Rayleigh in the time skip. Silver's Rayleigh should be around the same level as Scaber Gaban. Silver's Rayleigh was fighting Admiral Kizaru pre-time skip, and he was doing a pretty equal fight against Kizaru. Then we know post-time skip, he scared off Blackbeard, but he also said that Blackbeard would defeat him, knowing that Rayleigh kind of confirms that he's not Yonko level anymore. So that just should confirm that Scaber Gaban in his old age can't be Yonko level, and Luffy has just reached Yonko level, and Luffy fought Kizaru, and there's a lot of ifs and what ifs was the Kizaru fight because Kizaru gave him food, but of course he couldn't handle a lot of Luffy's attacks, so it's a very like iffy situation when it comes to the power scaling of Luffy and Kizaru. So this Scaber Gaban Luffy interaction could determine where we put Luffy, because Luffy has a lot of question marks after beating Kaido, because he beat Kaido but there's a lot of help, and then he goes into Egghead Island and he does really well against Kizaru and Saturn, but there's a lot of iffy moments. So now we're going to see Scaber Gaban, and if he can defeat Scaber Gaban or do better than Scaber Gaban in the showing, this kind of confirms Luffy is legitimately a Yonko level character, which I already believe, but sometimes confirmation means everything. And probably thinking, how is Luffy going to defeat Scaber Gaban, because Oda just revealed this character, he's supposed to be a hype. Yeah, more times than not, Scaber Gaban is not going to get defeated. It's probably going to be a situation where Scaber Gaban shows an incredibly new power or technique, and I think some sort of martial art with his axes, and he's known as the Mountain Eater, and we know that Luffy is susceptible to sharp objects. Like, you have to understand, Kaido really didn't have a sharp object when he was fighting Luffy, so seeing Scaber Gaban, it's going to be interesting to see how Luffy deals with his axes. He has two axes which he fights with. So all I'm saying is this, I think that Luffy is stronger than Scaber Gaban, but I think there's going to be really to show his experience over Luffy. Luffy's a Yonko, but his experience is he's the most least experienced Yonko in the Yonko crew, even more least experienced than Buggy. Yes, Luffy has more experience when it comes to fighting top level guys, but when it comes to how many years he's been a pirate, he's the least experienced Yonko. So I think this is a word to show, this is going to develop Luffy's experience when it comes to trying to reach Pirate King level and trying to reach Roger. So I love this interaction between Scaber Gaban and Luffy. I'm a big fan of it. And when Oimi, I think it was Oimi or Kashi, I'm not too sure, but I remember they were hyping up Scaber Gaban, and they dropped the lore of this character. They said he was a pirate with two axes who fought off hundreds of pirates and cut off every tree in the mountain area, and that's why they call him the Mountain Eater. And he did this not just to like flex how strong he was. He did this because he was trying to get Roger to a hospital. That's how much he had love for Roger, that he fought hundreds of pirates. Now I want to see this scene animated because this reminds me of Zoro and Sanji during Thriller Bark and how what they did for Luffy, both trying to sacrifice their life for Luffy. So I want to see Scaber Gaban doing this for Roger, and it'll be a cool scene to see. And Jinbei says everyone knows his tale. I keep on forgetting that Jinbei is the most experienced pirate on the Straw Hat Pirates, even more experienced than Brook, because Brook was just being a loner for years. So it's kind of interesting how Jinbei just already knows the hype about Scaber Gaban, and I found it epic as hell too as well. So I can't wait to see where Oda goes with this. I want to see it animated. I want to see the scene. And it's Scaber Gaban doing this against someone legit. If it's some legit pirates too as well, it'll be cool. But I want to see more legends of Rayleigh and Scaber Gaban. For what we know, right now it's confirmed that Scaber Gaban has more lore than Rayleigh right now. Oda hasn't really revealed a lot of lore of Rayleigh. All we know is the Dark King still was Rayleigh, and of people hype him up to extreme lengths. But Oda is actually explaining Scaber Gaban lore in Elbaf, showing that I think Scaber Gaban is going to be more of a pivotal character when it comes to his arc. So Rayleigh was a pivotal in Sabaody, but Elbaf's a long arc. It's a long arc, so I can't wait to see what Oda's going to do with this character. And even the way that Oda actually reveals Scaber Gaban, a voice calls out the Straw Hat Luffy saying he's been waiting to meet him, and he throws an axe at Road, and Road nearly dodges it. The fact that he throws an axe shows that he is not coming for peace. Like, he's coming for peace, but he's also coming like, yo, don't disrespect, I'm still a monster. Luffy saves Nami and passes her to Zoro, showing that Luffy's serious as well because of this attack. And shippers are going to love this as well, the whole Zoro and Nami in his arms. I already know the shippers are going to love that. We then see Yasan sitting on the throne, and he's a former pirate who sensed a strange surge of haki and was looking for the smoke. Now, this is interesting because we know there's a strange surge of haki in Naked Island that Jinbei sensed, Zoro, Lucci, Kizaru, and Luffy. So this already confirms that Scaber Gaban is well adept when it comes to his haki. And he was looking for smoke. That's one thing. Scaber Gaban was looking to fight the strange surge of haki, but he's glad he found Luffy because, of course, he has that Wano hat. He's the guy who met Crocus. It's Scaber Gaban. His design is there. And some people are making fun of the design, but I think it's cool. Some people think, whoa, he looks way older than Rayleigh. But I'm thinking, I think it's just the hair. He has a lot of hair, and the hat and the outfit is more like old Gramps looking than Rayleigh. Scaber Gaban says that he heard rumors of Luffy defeating Kaido. It's been ages since I've been to Wano. I'd love to go again. Now, people are going to use this to downplay Scaber Gaban, but Greenbill said the same thing. He said Kaido is him. Like, the reason why a lot of people don't go to Wano is because of Kaido. First. Second thing is he has a whole crew. Kaido has a whole crew. So if Scaber Gaban goes to Wano, he's not just fighting Kaido. There's also King. There's also Queen. There's also Jack. There's also Yamato. There's also the Flying Six that is in the cover story. Like, come on. Like, Scaber Gaban he's not winning that battle. That's 100% guaranteed. Think about this. Kozuki Oden. It's the third thing. Kaido beat Kozuki Oden with his red scabbards. He had at least a crew of Legion of Samurais that would fight. A very strong Legion of Samurais that could fight with him. And he still lost. Yeah, it was a distraction, but still. Whitebeard even knows this. That's why he kind of warned Ace, like, yo, a man that Kozuki Oden lost to, you want to go against? Like, and if you're going to go against, if Whitebeard wasn't going to go to fight Kaido, he was going to start a whole war. So that was Whitebeard's reason. So if you're going to Wano, it's best that you don't do it if you're retired. And Gaban is retired after Roger retired and Rayleigh retired. So I understand what he meant there, but a lot of people are going to take that for granted and say, oh, Scaber Gaban is scared of Kaido. I don't think he's scared of Kaido. I think he just knows. He's not dumb. He's not stupid. He just knows what's going to happen if he goes there. He's going for a fight against an outnumbered fight as well. And he's retiring, and he's like, yeah, I don't want to do this right now. I think they offered to help Oden too as well. I can't recall exactly the words, but they offered to help Oden, but he declined, saying it's Wano's matters. So honestly, I don't think this is a bad look for Scaber Gaban. If anything, this is just a hype look for Luffy. Scaber Gaban is respecting Luffy for defeating Kaido, and it's also a hype look for Kaido that every pirate in the world respects Kaido. And also, don't forget this. Scaber Gaban was on God Valley. Who else was there? An apprentice Kaido. So Scaber Gaban knows Kaido's beginning stages to his end stages. He knows how Kaido was like a little kid on the God Valley and on the Rocks Pirates, and now he was like a monster in Wano. Like, Scaber Gaban knows that whole storyline. So it makes so many sense, but a lot of people are going to jump to their agendas as always, and we can't do much about that. As One Piece fans who don't really care about that, we can't do much about that. Luffy then says to Gaban, does he know where Loki's keys is? And Road is like, what are you doing? And Gaban asks Luffy what he would do if things go south. It kind of reminded me when Rayleigh was asking Luffy what would he do if he fought someone that can see into the future. And Luffy said to see if he's a good person or not, which Rayleigh was like, what? Like, it was a funny reaction from Rayleigh, but it also shows how Luffy is as a character. So Gaban asks what he would do if things go south, and Luffy says, I'll just beat him up and lock him up again. And then Gaban's like, it was only Red-haired Shanks who was the only one able to stop Loki, and his power is like pretty insane that can cause a lot of casualties if he runs amok. So Scaber Gaban kind of warning Luffy like, I know you defeated Kaido, but Loki is not a scrub. So this is also a lot of Loki gas as well in this chapter. Gaban then starts yapping and warning, and Luffy and Zoro are like, ignoring this. You have to understand this. Luffy's coming off a Kaido win, became a Yonko, then went to Egghead Island, fought Kizaru and Admiral, fought the Gorosei. Like, Luffy is on a sky high when it comes to how strong he thinks he is. Luffy is always confident, but this is to another level. Then Zoro, coming off a King win, the Lunarian. Then going to Egghead Island and destroying Rob Lucci. And clashing with the Venus Jewel, the Gorosei. These two characters with their Kankazaki coding are really, really confident in their powers. So they're just thinking, you're lecturing us, old man? Like, come on, like, we're in our prime. And he remembers beefing Roger the same way because of his warnings. And Roger's like, yo, if you want to stop me, do it by force. And he calls Roger a dumbass, which I found hilarious, Roger and Gaban's relationship. You have to understand, Gaban's been with Roger a very long time. I think he's, after Rayleigh, it's Gaban's the next crew member that's joins, or should be one of the first crew members of the Roger Pirates. So I love that flashback when he saw Luffy and Zoro ignoring him. He just remembers Roger, and I think this guy probably misses Roger a lot. And it's been 20 years since he's seen Roger, over 20 years since he's seen Roger, so I thought that was cool. Also, the Giants that were hyping up Gaban said a very interesting statement. They said that he rivaled Silver's Rayleigh, the left hand of the Pirate King. Now, we all know this is going to cause a lot of controversy because Sanji rivals Zoro, the left hand of Luffy. So a lot of people are going to be looking at this like Scaber Gaban and Rayleigh are extremely close, but I'm thinking this shouldn't be a surprise. Look at how Oda showed Scaber Gaban and Oden's flashback. Who was fighting Kazuki Oden, Whitebeard's strongest commander? It was Scaber Gaban. Who wanted to fight him at first? It was Scaber Gaban and Rayleigh. Honestly, I think that Scaber Gaban has been shown narratively to be around Rayleigh level. So for the Giants to say this, it's not a complete shock, if I'm being honest. And the whole Zoro-Sanji rivalry we see, like even King and Queen. Yeah, King and Queen is a difference in strength. Like King is stronger than Queen. Everybody knows that. But still, Queen and King talk to each other like they're equals. And that's the whole point. The King and Queen rival each other the same way that Sanji and Zoro rival each other. So I thought that was interesting. When you look at the Big Mom Pirates, Katakuri and Smoothie is not, that dynamic's not really like that. Katakuri is kind of like the only one of the crew. Same way Kazuki Oden on the Whitebeard Pirates when they were there. So there's also things like that. But then you look at the Rocks when Shiki and Whitebeard were kind of rivaling each other like this. So think about this. When Roger fought the Rocks Pirates, Roger was fighting Roxy Zebek. Then Rayleigh was probably fighting Whitebeard. Then Scaber Gaban was probably fighting Shiki. That would be insane to see that battle of those. That's probably why Rayleigh and Scaber Gaban are legends, because they're fighting captain-like monsters in Whitebeard and Shiki. So yeah, I thought I'd get my take on this as well. Then of course Gaban also explains how Colin is 20 years old, which just broke my mind. The fact that this little kid is 20 years old, showing how Elbaf time is completely different when it comes to the Giants and how they live extremely longer. And Ripley's 80-year-old woman, but she looks like she's in her 20s to 30s. Like she looks extremely young. And well, she looks like 30s to 40s if I want to give her that. And he's getting old. He's like, Ripley's older than him, but he's getting old, so that doesn't make sense for him to marry her. Then he talks about the Buccaneers, the Dosundadas, the long-neck tribe, the Wotans. These are some interesting hybrid tribes. Some of them I know, like the Buccaneers, but some of them I don't know. And he talks about how they've been surviving in different eras, and some people were just more flexible. Honestly, it's like he's preaching like he's Martin Luther King. And honestly, how to say this, yo? Look at Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech, yo. Scaber Gaban is talking about that when it comes to mixed racing, and I gotta respect it, yo. As this person, I like his personality. He has a really cool personality, if I'm being completely honest. And honestly, Colin is around the same age as Ace, Roger's kid, so I'm telling you guys right now, it makes sense, like how the whole age timeline matter. It's just that how he looks completely different. So I thought that was cool. And I also like how Zoro says, "You seem like an expert. Who are you?" Zoro already knows this guy's not a regular dude. And he says, "I'm the missionary of love." And like I said, Luffy says, "This is like Sanji when he gets older," which I found funny how Oda's doing parallels that people have been telling me to stop doing for a decade. If you guys know on this channel, for LegendMac channel, since 10 years, people have been in my comments yelling at me for paralleling Zoro to Rayleigh and Sanji to Scaber Gaban. They call me an idiot. They say I'm jumping to conclusions. But when Oda does it, what do I say? 10 years later, Oda's doing it. That's the reason why I do it. I just see the patterns and I talk about it. If you have a problem with that, get the hell off my channel. Please, get out of here. I don't want you watching my videos. You guys are taking L's left and right. And going back to the cover story, Who's Who is about to kill Uchi in page 1. But is using a sword, which I thought was cool. The whole Wano element, the whole samurai-esque element. And Who's Who is still a villain. I kind of knew he was going to be a villain still because of how he talked to Jinbei about the whole slavery and stuff. I like the whole how he introduced Nika and everything. So I like that he's a main part of this cover story. But yeah, and page 1 and Ulti makes sense that they're more hero-like characters because they're like younger and they're like more naive in a sense. And page 1 was talking, Ulti was talking trash to Kaido too as well. So I don't mind them joining Yamato because Yamato's obviously going to save these characters against Who's Who. Like, but now people have to admit, this is what people are so crazy. They don't understand the power scaling dynamics of the Beast Pirates. Number 1 is Kaido. Number 2 is Yamato. Number 3 is King. Number 4 is Queen. Number 5 is Jack. Number 6 is Who's Who. You know why number 6 is Who's Who? Because Who's Who fought Jinbei. If you're fighting one of the strongest Straw Hat Pirates, you're automatically the strongest Flying Six to me. I don't give a crap what Ulti did with Luffy. Oh, Luffy, I almost had to use Gear 4th against her. Luffy would have to use Gear 4th against Jinbei. Like, are you crazy? Like, Jinbei's not a weakling. You see his hockey and his Fisherman Karate? Like, what he did against Big Mom, what he did against Akainu and Marineford, what he did against Ace? He fought Ace for 5 days? Like, no. Who's Who is the strongest Flying Six? And this kind of confirms that these guys got captured. So people have been crying, oh my gosh, no, Ulti's the strongest Flying Six. No, Who's Who's number 1. That's why he has the highest bounty of the Flying Six. Like, come on, guys. Also, Rhodes says only graybeards like the Elder Ja Rule, Luffy calls them sword rams, actually probably know where the key is. And Luffy wants to ask, and he's like, no, that's out of the equation. Like, that's a heinous crime to free Loki. And Zoro says we haven't decided yet if we're gonna free him. I like how Zoro's still being cautious with Loki, even though Luffy's like, yo, it's no fun. It's a good dynamic between Luffy and Zoro, kind of like how Rayleigh and Scaber Gaban in this chapter were kind of like yapping to Roger. Zoro and Sanji, I like that level-headed reason of logic to Luffy, who has no logic. And the final thing I want to talk about is how they reach the throne room and see Shamrock Circle. And that's how he used to arrive. I mean, he's probably still there. Shamrock's still there and probably heading to the Walrus School to deal with the above children. And we might even see a new Holy Knight join the castle as Gaban, Zoro, and Luffy are there, and they may have to interact with that with new Holy Knight. And Nami explains how this magic circle is to summon demons. We saw this in Naked Island, and Luffy tries to remember where he saw it but can't, but it's obviously the Gorisei. So I thought that was cool how they added this element as well. Seeing this hasn't really been explained, and to see them talk about it was cool as a fan. So overall, I really enjoyed this chapter. If you're a Scaber Gaban fan like I am, I really enjoyed this chapter because the whole chapter was about him, and it hyped him up as well. It gave him the right full hype that I've been wanting for years. So as a fan of this chapter, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and Oda's been on fire, and he deserves a break. Honestly, I think if Oda didn't take a break, he would go crazy. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to drop some cool videos in this break week. I might even do a collab. And the Skypiea video will be dropping too as well. So expect that. Turn notification, of course. Like the video. You guys like these chapter videos. I've been doing these chapter videos and people have been enjoying them. So like it. And of course, debate in the comment section if you disagree with anything I said in this video.